Yo, what is going on, everyone? It's your boy. I just screwed up this intro so hard, but if you're wondering why I sound like I haven't slept for a year and a half, it's because I basically haven't, and that really plays in today's story. So we're just gonna hop right into it. I'm not gonna waste your time anymore. We're gonna hop into the story. So as my life currently stands, I am out of town. I am not in my normal house. I am in a different city, and I am at my grandma's house with my cousin. Now, my cousin and I's escapades have been mentioned in a couple of my videos, couple of my story times, and we haven't been able to hang out in a long time, so we ended up taking this time, and we're hanging out. And, the night before I'm recording this was the first night of this couple day hangout, and, it wasn't too crazy when it started out. We both got here, and we're kind of just, doing our thing. Like, kind of just hanging out like we did when we were teenagers, like we were playing VR, like playing like random games. We did a lot of playing games. We were watching movies, just hanging out with our family and stuff, and it's been a good time. And one of the things me and my cousins used to always do is we'd run horror games. We did that this time. Like, we ran like most of Outlast 1, which kind of picked up from where he left off. We ran some Slender the Arrival, and we're currently running through Outlast 2. We're just playing through them, we're storming through them, and it's going pretty well. We watched Talladega Nights, which I had never seen up until now, but that was a pretty funny movie. And aside from that, we played a lot of Jackbox, and if you don't know what Jackbox is, you probably do. So as I mentioned, all of this was the night before I'm recording this, and it was about like 4 a.m. at the point that we had decided, like, okay, we're tired, we're gonna reconvene in the morning. And so we go our separate ways. He sleeps in his bed. I forgot to mention my sister was with us. She goes off to her bed. And I go off to a different room in this house, into a bed that I'm going to sleep in. So I get into this room. I plug my phone in because that bitch is going to die. And I lay it down on the nightstand. And I try and go to sleep. Because I'm fucking tired at this point. Like, I got down to my grandma's house, like, very early the previous morning because I left super early. And the night before I left, I worked until, like, 1 a.m. So I'm, like, super tired at this point. But I can't seem to get myself off to sleep because this room there keeps being a really loud noise, And it doesn't take me too long to realize that noise is coming from the window. Because it was extremely windy outside, like windier than I have seen it for a long time. But this window is pretty old, like the house is pretty old, and just the way it's set up, or just maybe something happened to it, I'm not really sure. But the window, it doesn't really like air seal properly anymore. So when you have like wind and it's like traveling at a high speed and it like moves through those like small cracks and it's like a really loud like whistling noise. Yeah, I had a fuck ton of that going into my room. So after trying to just like sleep through it and cover my ears in like pillows and blankets and whatever I could and just like fall asleep, I couldn't do it. I couldn't make that shit work. So I stand up and I start trying to like fix this damn window in the middle of the night. Like, I pull out the screen and see if that's making it not work, which was a bad idea because I can't get the screen back in. It's still out. I found a damn screwdriver and tried to screw the window in tighter. It was a mess. But I didn't accomplish anything. It still made the whistling noises. So I gave up. I laid back down. I tried to sleep again, but this shit just wasn't happening. And at this point, if I don't get at least some sleep, I'm going to fucking die the next morning. So I decide to scramble like an egg before I get folded like a damn omelet. So I grab my pillow, I grab my blanket, and I go looking for somewhere else to sleep. And so my first thought is, like, I'm going to go sleep on, like, the couch in the living room. Like, that'll be fine. I've done that before. I'll go sleep there. So I go there with my pillow and my blanket. And when I get there, I realize, I'm like, wait a second. I want to sleep in a bed. There is another bed in this house. And that bed was in the basement. In the far end of the basement, there's a room that's like, it's kind of a storage room. Like, my grandma kind of just uses it to like hold like whatever she doesn't really have a place for. And there is a bed in there. So I'm like, I'm a genius. I'm going to go to that bed. So I go down into the dark basement and I go into this room, and it's fucking dark in there. Because this room is like I said, it's in like the back corner of the basement. There is no windows in it. There's no nothing. And if I recall correctly from what my grandparents have told me, the people who owned this house before them, this room that I'm talking about was like the guy's like recording studio. He like made country music or something, so it's soundproofed as well. It's just like it's a dark room. I was like sitting in the void. But you know what? The soundless void was sounding preferable to just the absolute ear rape of wind that I was getting upstairs. So that's what I went with. So like I said, there's no windows in there, and it's very dark. Like, I can't see anything. Like, my eyes don't even really adjust. I can't see anything. So I'm using my phone flashlight to try and find an outlet next to the bed so I can plug in my phone charger so that my phone will be charged for the next day. And I end up finding an outlet, but not before I find something else. I found next to the bed some lacy women's underwear. And that concludes the story's prologue. You're probably wondering, Rainey, why are we like 6 minutes into this story and you haven't talked about what the title is? That's because that's the prologue. Or I guess it's not the prologue because it happened after the story, because that was last night. So I found this, and it reminded me of this story that I'm about to tell you. Sorry that the intro was basically like 6 minutes long, but we're going to get into the actual story now. The actual story takes place a good couple years ago. I believe it was around Christmas time, and I believe I was in the 11th grade. And there was this girl that I kind of knew because she kind of had a bit of like a thing with one of my friends. And so, like, well, she was, like, friends. I think friends with benefits was one of my friends. I'm not really sure the extent of their relationship. But because they were, like, friends, we were also, like, kind of, like, acquaintances, sort of friends, you know? So I, like, had her on Snapchat and Instagram and stuff. We're going to call this girl Emma. So around this time, I believe it was, like, a little bit after Christmas. And my family was kind of just, like, still chilling out here at my grandparents' house. And around this time, like, a lot of the family had gone. Like, my cousin that I always hang out with, he wasn't here anymore. So it was kind of just like me, my family, and my grandparents, I think. And, you know, being a teenager, I was frequently Snapchatting my friends or whoever I had on Snapchat. So, long story short, I come to the realization that Emma is also, like, in the same city that's not the city that we both live in, but is a different city as I am, because she's also out of town with her family. Like, at this point, I'm bored as hell, right? Like I mentioned, like, the cousin that I always hang out with, he wasn't here anymore. My siblings are boring, and there wasn't a lot to do, so I was getting pretty bored. So me and Emma was also bored, so we kind of both decided that we were going to meet up, we were going to hang out, we were going to do something. Now, I thought we were going to do something during the day, but that didn't end up happening because Emma was pretty busy with her family, and I ended up being kind of busy with mine as well, so it kind of worked out in that sense. But we had ended up planning on hanging out that night. And unfortunately, we had to kind of be a little bit secretive about it because her family didn't really want her going out that late just to meet some person in the city that they don't live in. And my family probably, I didn't ask, but I can imagine that my family wouldn't have wanted me to just meet up with some girl in the middle of the night. We ended up coming up with a plan where Emma was going to sneak out and use her car to drive over to my grandparents' house, and we were going to hang out there. So eventually the time comes that all of my family is asleep, and like my family doesn't really like stay up and like do like partying up until like the early hours of the morning, but they sometimes just like exist until really late, if that makes sense. So it's probably about like 1 a.m. that this happened, but all my family was asleep. I texted Emma, and she said she was going to be on her way soon. And sooner or later, she showed up, so I quietly came down from my room upstairs that I was staying in, and quietly opened the door to let her in. Now, I kind of realized that we can't really just hang out in the room that I'm in, because it's right next to everyone else, and she's not supposed to be here. I was kind of like, okay, we'll go hang out in the basement. So we do that. We go down to the basement, and we go into this room at the end of the basement in the back corner, because like I said, it's soundproof. Like, we can hang out in here, we can talk, and it'll all be cool. So Emma had brought her Nintendo Switch, and she had Smash Bros. And Mario Kart. So we started off playing Mario Kart. We went a couple rounds on that, and then we moved over to Smash, and Smash got really, really competitive. We were going back and forth with wins. We were both getting really into it, you know? Like, we were both trying to win, and it was getting serious. So eventually Emma looks at me, and she's like, I have an idea. And I'm like, what's that? She's like, we should raise the stakes on this one. How about every time you lose, you have to take off a piece of clothing? So basically, she was suggesting strip Smash Bros. And I was kind of like nervous to accept this challenge, but I was like, oh, okay, let's do that. Now, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not the best at Smash Bros. I never have been. I probably never will be. And I don't know what possessed me on this evening, but I locked the fuck in and didn't lose a single round. Probably became the #1 ranked Simon player like on the planet for a solid 30 minutes. So eventually, I'm still in the exact same state that I'm in, and Emma is just in her underwear. Both pieces, but that's all she's got left. So at this point, she kind of looks at me and she's like, I'm a little bored of Smash Bros. Like, do you want to watch a movie? I'm like, okay, let's watch a movie. She's like, hey, let's do that. But like, I'm kind of cold, so we should get under the blankets. And she hops up onto the bed and she starts crawling under the blankets. So I hop up and I crawl under the blankets as well. She pulls out her phone, opens Netflix. I think we watched like La La Land or something. I don't know. I don't really remember. And so, we start like watching this movie, quotation marks. I mean, like I was invested in the movie. I always am. That's my problem. But she was a little bit less invested. And what we're going to say is some more clothes ended up off. We're kind of just doing our thing. And yeah, all I'm going to say is I feel so lucky that Emma was under these blankets when she was, because as she was under those blankets, the door of the room started opening. So we both just like stopped in our tracks, and she was conveniently under a blanket. And I see the door open, and it's my grandpa. And he's kind of like, oh, like, what are you doing down here? I thought you were sleeping upstairs. So I kind of hit him with like, yeah, I was, but it's quieter down here, so I could sleep better. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, I got woken up because the cat got out. So can you please be more careful with the cat? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Now I had completely forgotten about the cat. So for context on that, my grandparents, they don't really do this anymore, but with the cat, he'd like be pretty disruptive, especially when like the family was staying over, and he'd like wake people up and stuff. So all his stuff, like his food and his litter box and everything, was in the basement. So at night he kind of just chill downstairs, and we'd keep the basement door closed, and he wasn't supposed to go up. And now this cat like loved my grandpa as well, so every opportunity the cat would like go to my grandpa. So I woke him up, which was a problem for me because he probably wasn't going back to sleep. So like, I apologize, my grandpa closed the door, and he goes back upstairs from the basement. So as soon as I hear him going up the stairs, I lift the blanket off of Emma, and I tell her like, get dressed, like we gotta, like my family's awake, we gotta do something. And oddly enough, she seemed a lot less panicked than I did. Like she seemed like she was chilling. I was kind of losing it. Yeah, she puts her stuff back on it, I guess at least the stuff she finds, and she trails behind me as I go up the stairs to like quote unquote go to the bathroom to like, investigate the scenario. But luckily for me, there was a ray of hope shining on me this night, because as I went up, I saw that my grandpa was in the bathroom. And he usually took a long time in the bathroom, which, like, fair enough. It'd be like that. Sometimes you're fighting wars in there. So I saw this as the perfect opportunity. So I silently ran as fast as I could back downstairs to Emma, told her the coast was clear, but we gotta go fast. And we got her quietly out the door, back to her car, and she made it safely back to her place, or I guess wherever she was staying. And that's kind of where that ended. Like, we didn't hang out again on this trip. We didn't really, like, nothing else really, like, happened between us, if that makes sense. Like, nothing really at all happened between us, but there wasn't anything past this. Like, we did sort of end up becoming, like, a little bit more friends, I would say, because, like I said, she kind of had a thing with my friend, but then she was also, like, friends with my girlfriend, and so we were kind of friends for a bit, but then they kind of had a falling out, so I'm not really friends with her anymore, because she's not friends with my girlfriend. So that being said, the surprise I found next to my bed was discarded pretty quickly, because I don't talk to this person anymore, and I am in a relationship. So yeah, guys, the moral of today's story is spend time with your grandparents. Now, where's that coming from, you're probably asking? It's coming from the fact that, like, I was just doing some dumb shit doing this, and that was what it was, and it made a good story for you guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. But otherwise, when you're with your grandparents, spend time with them, because speaking from experience here, you never really know what time you got. So yeah, just use it. Spend time with them. I'm sure they'd love it. Anyway, I'm not really trying to get a hallmark on you guys. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the story time. I know I'm not super consistent with the uploads at the moment, but I am doing a little bit better, and I hope you guys are enjoying the videos. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Later.